I was just pouring my second cup of coffee when my phone buzzed. It was the kind of morning where the rain hadn't stopped since midnight, and the city looked like it had been crying all night. I didn't expect anything unusual. It was supposed to be a quiet day. But then I read the name on the screen, Evelyn Harper. No, not her directly. She wouldn't call me. Not after what happened between us years ago. It was her family's attorney. His voice trembled as he spoke. Detective Simon. Evelyn is missing. She hasn't been seen since last night. I froze. Evelyn Harper, heiress to the Harper fortune, daughter of industrial royalty, and the woman I once loved more than life itself, was gone. Disappeared from the middle of Manhattan like a ghost. She left a club at 11:45 p.m. He continued. Never made it home. My heart sank, but I kept my voice steady. Has this been reported to NYPD? They've opened a missing persons file, but the family wants someone discreet. They wanted me. Maybe because I wasn't just another detective. Maybe because of my history with her. Or maybe because they knew this wasn't going to be an ordinary case. I arrived at Evelyn's penthouse in the Upper East Side in under 30 minutes. It was untouched, almost too perfect. Not a pillow out of place. The kind of cleanliness that screamed, someone wiped this down. Then I saw it. Her laptop was still open. On the screen was a search bar. One phrase glared back at me. How to disappear without leaving a trace. My pulse quickened. Beside the desk, in the trash bin, was something shredded. I pulled it out carefully, fragments of a letter. Written in her handwriting. I pieced together what I could. I can't keep living like this. They think I don't know, but I do. All of it. If anything happens to me. The rest was missing. I looked out over the city from her floor-to-ceiling windows. Evelyn didn't just vanish. She was running from something. Or someone. And I had a sinking feeling that whatever she was trying to escape was now coming for me too. I stood in Evelyn's penthouse longer than I should have. The silence was deafening. The room felt like a memory, clean, elegant, and hollow. Something wasn't right. Everything was too untouched. I opened her closet. All of her shoes were aligned perfectly. Dresses untouched. But one thing stood out. Her favorite coat, a long burgundy trench, was missing. That meant she left willingly. Or thought she was going somewhere safe. I opened her jewelry drawer, empty. Evelyn wouldn't leave without her diamond necklace. It was her mother's. She wore it like a shield. She planned this. She took the necklace, the coat, and vanished. But there was something else. Behind a bookshelf, barely noticeable, was a thin seam in the wall. I pressed it, and a hidden cabinet clicked open. Inside was a small metal lockbox. It was open. Empty. I called the building's security. I need footage from last night. Every angle. Elevator, lobby, parking garage. The guard hesitated. There's a problem, sir. The system glitched last night. Power surge wiped 2 hours of footage. Of course it did. I stepped out onto the street. The rain had stopped, but the city still felt soaked in dread. I lit a cigarette. I promised myself I'd quit months ago. Evelyn's face wouldn't leave my mind. Where did you go, Evelyn? I headed to the one person who might have known, Jason Lynn. Childhood friend. Former finance prodigy. And the last person Evelyn messaged. I found him in his Soho loft, dim lights, jazz music, and a half-drunk bottle of scotch on the piano. When he saw me, his smirk faded. You're here about Evelyn. She's missing, Jason. What do you know? He hesitated, swirling his drink like it held answers. She called me 2 nights ago. Said she found something. Something dangerous. Told me if anything happened, to go to her father's study. Dangerous how? He looked at me, haunted. She said, her family isn't what we think. She said someone was watching her. That night, I broke into the Harper family estate. I found the study. Walls lined with books. But behind the third shelf, a vault. Inside were financial documents, wire transfers, names of offshore accounts. One name repeated over and over: Frank Marlowe, family advisor, Evelyn's mentor, and someone with everything to lose if she talked. I felt it then. The shift. This wasn't a missing persons case. It was a war. And Evelyn Harper had just declared it. Frank Marlowe. The name echoed in my head as I sat in my car outside his Park Avenue office the next morning. I remembered him from charity galas years ago, always the man with the golden cufflinks, the easy smile, and eyes like wet steel. He had been with the Harper family for over a decade. Trusted. Untouchable. Now he was my first suspect. I buzzed his office. "Mr. Marlowe is currently unavailable," the receptionist said, her voice sharp and rehearsed. "Tell him Alex Simon is here. He'll remember me." A long pause. Then the door clicked open. His office was a fortress of wealth: leather chairs, dark oak furniture, and paintings worth more than my apartment. Frank looked up from behind his desk, pretending to be surprised. "Detective Simon? I didn't expect to see you again. I'm investigating Evelyn's disappearance." He chuckled softly, leaning back. "That girl's always been dramatic. She's probably just hiding out, trying to make a statement. She left a letter. Said she was afraid. Said she knew everything." That got his attention. A flicker of something: panic? Anger? It vanished too quickly. "She's under a lot of pressure. You know how these rich girls can get." I stood, stepping closer. "If anything happens to her, Frank, I'm not going to knock next time." His smile dropped. "Careful, detective. You're not wearing a badge anymore." He was right. I wasn't NYPD anymore. But I still knew how to make people like him sweat. Back in my apartment, I laid the documents out on the table. Wire transfers from Harper Industries to shell companies. Most routed through the Cayman Islands. But one stood out. A $2.5 million payment, marked consulting fee, wired just days before Evelyn vanished. And it was signed off by Frank. This wasn't about money. This was about silence. I grabbed my phone, dialed Jason again. She knew Frank was stealing. "It's bigger than that," he whispered. "Check the name Blackwood Holdings." Evelyn traced it too. Click. The line went dead. I tried calling back. No answer. Then, a knock at my door. I opened it, hand on my sidearm. But no one was there. Only an envelope on the floor. Inside was a flash drive, and a single Polaroid. It was Evelyn, tied to a chair. And behind her, wearing a mask, someone holding a sign: "Stop digging or she dies." I stared at the Polaroid for a long time. Evelyn's eyes were swollen. Terrified. Her mouth was taped shut, and the chair she was tied to looked old, wooden, almost antique. The masked figure behind her wore black gloves and held the sign with steady hands. No emotion. No rush. Just a quiet, calculated threat. I slid the flash drive into my laptop. The screen blinked, then a single video file appeared. Harper_truth_01. MP4-inch. I hesitated. Then I clicked. The footage was grainy, like it had been filmed on an old security camera. It showed a dimly lit boardroom. Around the table sat several familiar faces: Frank Marlowe, 2 Harper board members, and an unknown man with a thick Eastern European accent. They were talking in code, but the message was clear. "If Evelyn testifies, we lose everything. What about the offshore accounts? She's been digging. We need a solution before she talks to the press." I hit pause. This wasn't just embezzlement. It was a conspiracy. Corporate crime, bribery, maybe even murder. And Evelyn was about to blow it all open. I called NYPD, my old partner, Detective Marisol Vega. "I need a trace on a flash drive. And I need it quiet. Alex, you're not supposed to be on cases like this. It's Evelyn. A pause. Then, send it over. While I waited, I dug deeper into Blackwood Holdings, the company Jason mentioned before the call cut out. It was a shell, registered to an address in Newark, but I knew that trick. The real action always happened elsewhere. That's when I found it, a property owned by Blackwood, just outside the city. A warehouse. Abandoned for years, on paper. But I knew a cover when I saw one. Just as I was about to head out, my phone buzzed. It was Marisol. Alex, the footage on that flash drive? It's real. But that's not the worst part. What is? We found the original source. It was pulled from the Harper family's internal security system. Someone inside the family gave it to Evelyn. I froze. Who? Her older brother. Miles Harper. I hadn't heard that name in years. He'd disappeared from the public eye, rumored to be in rehab, or hiding in Europe. But now he was back. And helping Evelyn? Or playing both sides? I arrived at the warehouse by nightfall. It was quiet. Too quiet. I circled the back and found a rusted service door. I picked the lock and slipped inside. The air smelled of dust and engine oil. Old crates were stacked in rows, and the flicker of a single light bulb danced in the distance. Then I saw it. A camera, active, blinking red. And just beyond it, a single chair. Empty. Rope on the floor. She had been here. But now she was gone. The chair was still warm. Evelyn had been here, recently. The ropes were loosely coiled on the floor, strands of her hair caught in the fibers. The camera above me whirred softly, tracking movement. Someone was watching. I reached for my phone. No signal. Of course. I moved carefully, sweeping the warehouse. Broken pallets, empty crates, rusted tools. It looked abandoned, but it wasn't. Not really. Someone had staged it to seem that way. I followed a faint trail of wet footprints across the floor, leading to a stairwell descending into darkness. I gripped my flashlight and went down. The basement was colder. A humming sound came from somewhere deep within the walls, generators, maybe. Then I saw it, a small room with soundproof padding and a surveillance console. The screens were dark now, but the dust patterns told me they'd been active recently. I found a desk drawer. Inside, another flash drive, and a phone. It buzzed in my hand. Unknown number. I answered. Stop looking. A voice growled, distorted and mechanical. Let her go. You don't understand. She's not who you think she is. Click. The line went dead. I rushed back to my car and drove straight to the only person who could make sense of this. Miles Harper. I hadn't seen him since the funeral of his mother, Evelyn's mom. He was the black sheep, the failed son, the disappointment of the Harper empire. But maybe he was the only one with a conscience left. I found him in a rotting brownstone on the edge of Brooklyn. He answered the door with sunken eyes and a whiskey bottle in hand. Simon. I wondered when you'd come. Why did you leak the footage to Evelyn? He stared at me for a moment, then stepped aside. Because she was the only one brave enough to stop it. Inside, the place was a wreck, stacks of unpaid bills, empty bottles, shattered frames. But his mind was sharp. My father's company, it's rotten. Frank's just the face of it. The real power's behind the curtain. Blackwood Holdings? He nodded. It's not just Harper money. It's political. International. They use Harper Industries as a front to move money, dirty money. Evelyn found proof. She was going to leak it at the shareholder meeting next week. So they took her. Yes. But not to kill her, yet. They want the files. The originals. And where are they? He stood, opened a hidden panel in the floor. Inside, a small steel case. Here. But you'll need Evelyn's password to open it. And what if we can't find her in time? Miles looked up at me, dead serious. Then we both die. And the truth dies with us. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the voice on the phone. She's not who you think she is. What did that mean? I stared at the Polaroid again. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. On her wrist, in faint ink, like a code. April 21st, 16//F. M. A date. And Frank Marlowe's initials. The night of her mother's death. Was it connected? Was Evelyn trying to tell me something else? April 21st, 16. I stared at those numbers until they blurred. That was the night Evelyn's mother, Catherine Harper, died. Officially, it was ruled a stroke. Quick. Natural. Unquestioned. But Evelyn never believed it. And now she tattooed the date on her wrist, with Frank Marlowe's initials beside it. That wasn't a tribute. That was a message. I went back into the city, to a place I hadn't stepped foot in years, the Harper family mausoleum. Cold marble walls. Generations of polished stone. And at the center, Catherine's tomb. I waited until the cemetery groundskeeper left. Then I pried open the stone plate. Inside, wrapped in velvet beside the urn, was a metal cylinder. Hidden. Untouched. I opened it carefully. Inside were photographs. Not of family. Not of memories. But documents. Handwritten letters from Catherine Harper. Frank is moving funds under false accounts. I've warned William, but he's complicit. Evelyn must never know what this empire is built on. I'm being watched. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. One letter dated April 20th, the day before her death, chilled me to my core. I fear I will not see tomorrow. If this reaches Evelyn, tell her I'm proud. Tell her to run. She knew. She knew she was going to die. And Evelyn had found this. Probably years ago. It was why she never stopped digging. Back at my apartment, I opened the steel case Miles had given me. It asked for a password. I tried dates. Names. Nothing worked. Then I remembered Evelyn's tattoo. April 21st, 16. The lock clicked. Inside, a USB, an old keycard, and a folded piece of paper. For Simon. If I don't make it back. My hands trembled as I read her note. You once told me truth always costs something. You were right. I just didn't know it would cost everything. Frank didn't kill my mother. My father did. I dropped the letter. William Harper. Evelyn's father. The patriarch. The icon. The man who built the empire. He had always played the part of grieving widower. But he was the rot at the center of it all. Evelyn had been chasing Frank, while the real monster had been in her home the entire time. And now, he had her. I sat in my car outside the Harper estate, the city glowing faintly behind me like a fading heartbeat. I hadn't been here in years, not since Catherine's funeral. Everything about the place reeked of control. Perfect hedges. Guards that looked like statues. And inside, a man who wore grief like a tailored suit. William Harper. The man the world called a titan. The man Evelyn now accused of murdering his own wife. I rang the bell. One of the guards opened the door. They recognized me, hesitated, then let me in without a word. The entryway looked like a museum, frozen in time. But there was no warmth, no photos of Evelyn anymore. Just oil paintings of men who built empires from the bones of others. William waited for me in his study, standing by a fireplace that hadn't been lit in years. Detective Simon, he said calmly, like we were old friends. It's been a while. I know about the files, I said. The accounts. Catherine's letters. He didn't flinch. And what do you think you'll do with that information? I stepped closer. Where is she? He sipped his drink. Evelyn has always been dramatic. Too emotional for this world. Too idealistic. She was never meant to lead. So you handed her over to Frank? A slow, chilling smile. Frank is just a tool. I'm the architect. Then his face changed, like a mask falling away. Do you know what it's like to build something from nothing? To watch your wife threaten it all because of morals? I gave her a peaceful exit. She should have thanked me. I clenched my fists. And Evelyn? She'll disappear. A tragic loss. Mental illness, perhaps. Or suicide. The press will believe what I tell them. He was calm. Too calm. You've already written her obituary. In this world, Simon, only one thing matters: control. And she lost hers the moment she trusted you. I lunged forward, grabbed him by the collar, slammed him into the bookshelf. Where is she? His smirk didn't fade. Even if I told you, you're too late. Suddenly, the guards rushed in. I backed off, heart pounding, but I had what I came for. Confirmation. William Harper wasn't just involved. He was in charge. I drove straight to Marisol. Told her everything. She didn't blink. You're not doing this alone anymore. She handed me a folder. Anonymous tip came in this morning. Coordinates. Said it's where they moved Evelyn. I looked down. A farmhouse. Upstate. Middle of nowhere. Perfect place to bury a secret. We left that night. Loaded. Armed. No backup. Because if Evelyn was still alive, this was our last shot. The road stretched endlessly ahead of us, swallowed by darkness and framed by trees that whispered like ghosts. Marisol drove in silence, her fingers drumming the steering wheel, tension thick between us. The further we got from the city, the more it felt like we were crossing into enemy territory. According to the tip, Evelyn was being held in an abandoned farmhouse just off Route 76. No neighbors. No cell signal. No escape. Perfect place for a secret to die. We parked half a mile out and went in on foot. Moonlight filtered through the trees, cold and silver. I moved fast, low, every instinct from my days on the force screaming, trap. The farmhouse appeared suddenly through the trees. 2 stories. Weather-worn wood. No lights. But there was a black SUV out front. Still warm. Someone was here. We circled around the back, silent. Marisol covered the door while I picked the lock. The smell hit me first: mildew, gasoline, and something else: fear. The inside was gutted. Empty rooms, exposed beams. But there were fresh footprints on the dusty floor, leading to the cellar. We followed them down. And that's when we heard it. A faint cry. Marisol nodded. I kicked the door in. There she was. Evelyn. Tied to a chair, bruised but alive. Eyes wide with disbelief. Simon! I rushed forward, cutting her loose. Her arms trembled as she clutched me, whispering. It was my father! He gave the order. Frank did the rest. I know. We've got you. You're safe now. But before we could move, a gunshot. It hit the wall beside us, spraying with splinters. We dove for cover. A shadow emerged at the top of the stairs: Frank Marlowe. Touch her again, and I put you down, he growled. It's over, Frank, I shouted. William's finished. We have the files. We have the letters. You're done. He laughed. No one cares about your evidence, Simon. You think anyone's going to believe a disgraced cop and a girl with a breakdown? He raised the gun. But Marisol moved faster. 2 shots. Frank dropped like a rag doll, the gun clattering beside him. Evelyn collapsed into my arms, sobbing. But it wasn't just relief. It was rage. Grief. Survival. She looked up at me, tears streaking down her face. He killed my mother. My father killed her. And they tried to do the same to me. They didn't. I whispered. You're still here. We got her out. Drove through the night back to the city. She didn't sleep. Just stared out the window, replaying years of betrayal, secrets, and silence. And now? Now it was war. By the time we crossed back into the city, dawn had begun to peel the night away. The skyline shimmered in orange and gold, like nothing evil could survive in that light. But we knew better. Evelyn sat beside me, wrapped in a blanket Marisol had found in the back seat. Her eyes were glassy but focused. "He's still out there," she whispered. "My father. He'll spin it. He always does." "Not this time," I said. "This time, we have the truth." We brought her straight to a safe house owned by a friend of Marisol's. Locked down, off the books, no digital footprint. Evelyn needed time to recover, and we needed time to plan. I uploaded everything: Catherine's letters, the audio from the boardroom, the files from the flash drive, the ledger Miles gave us. All of it. Marisol made calls. Quiet ones. To old friends in federal departments who still had their souls intact. The dominoes started to wobble. But William Harper didn't flinch. He made his move. Within 24 hours, every news outlet was running a headline: Evelyn Harper hospitalized after mental breakdown. Sources say heiress had history of delusions. Family declines to comment on allegations of abuse. They painted her as unstable. A disturbed woman haunted by grief. Classic deflection. The media bought it. The public swallowed it. And then the real threat came. Someone leaked my address. My car was torched outside my building. I got a photo in the mail, me and Evelyn entering the safe house. No words. Just the image. We were being hunted. "He's not going to wait for the law," Marisol said. "He's going to bury you before the system can save you." "Then we don't wait for the system," I replied. "We burn his world down first." We devised the plan in silence. No calls. No texts. Just paper, maps, and trust. The next Harper Industries shareholder meeting was in 3 days. The press would be there. Executives. Investors. The perfect stage. We were going to make sure the whole world watched it burn. But first, we needed to make one more visit. To Miles. He was waiting for us, already packing his things. "They know I helped her," he said, eyes rimmed in fear. "I can't stay here." "You won't have to," I said. "You're coming with us." He handed me something, a keycard with an encrypted chip. "It's access to the Harper data center. Every recording. Every file. Including the one I found the night Catherine died." "What file?" "Security footage. From the hallway outside her bedroom. It never made it into the police report." I slid the card into my laptop. A single video popped up. I hit play. And my blood froze. It was grainy. But unmistakable. William Harper. Standing outside his wife's door. Sliding on gloves. Then entering. 10 minutes later he walked out. Alone. Calm. Wiping something from his hands. That was it. The last nail. Proof of murder. I looked at Evelyn. She stared at the screen with a strange calm. "You okay?" I asked. She turned to me, her voice steady as steel. "I'm going to end him." 3 days. That's all the time we had before the Harper Industries shareholder meeting. 3 days to prepare the biggest takedown of one of the most powerful men in America. And we were outgunned, outnumbered, and, if I'm honest, out of time. But we had the truth. And that was the one weapon William Harper could never buy, erase, or bury. Marisol worked with her contacts in the DOJ. A few brave souls were willing to go on record the moment we dropped the footage. Miles secured the access to the building. Evelyn coordinated our drop, timing, names, documents, press release. Her hands were steady. Her voice calm. But I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't doing this to expose her father. She was doing this to destroy him. The morning of the meeting, we moved in. Harper Tower stood like a monolith, glass, steel, and arrogance. Inside, the main auditorium was filled with shareholders, cameras, reporters. Everyone ready to watch the king take his throne again. Evelyn dressed in black. No makeup. No speech. Just a flash drive in her hand, and a heart burning with vengeance. We entered through the underground access tunnel, an old delivery route Miles remembered from childhood. At 10:58 a.m., We slipped through the side entrance into the control room. The technicians stared as we stormed in, badges flashing, commands sharp. "Put this on the big screen," Marisol ordered, handing over the drive. But Mr. Harper said, "This isn't Mr. Harper's show anymore." 11 a.m. William Harper took the stage. Perfectly tailored suit. Warm smile. Applause echoing like thunder. "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Today marks a new chapter." The screen behind him flickered. Then cut. Static. Then Catherine Harper's diary. The boardroom audio. The ledger. The security footage. And finally, the video of him entering her room. And walking out alone. Gasps. Screams. Reporters scrambling. Phones flashing. William froze. For the first time in his life, he had no words. And then Evelyn walked onto the stage. "This is who you trusted," she said, voice echoing through the stunned silence. "This is the empire he built. With blood. Lies. And the death of my mother. I was next. But I survived. And now, so will the truth." Federal agents swarmed the room moments later. William Harper was escorted off stage in handcuffs. His eyes found Evelyn's one last time, filled with something between hatred and fear. The crowd parted as he passed her. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't smile. Outside, the press exploded. Cameras flashing. Headlines writing themselves. But for me, it was quiet. Because even though justice had been served, something told me this story wasn't over. Not yet. The dust didn't settle. It exploded. Within 24 hours, Harper Industries stock collapsed. Every media outlet in the country ran the story. William Harper arrested for conspiracy, murder, and fraud. Daughter exposes billionaire father in shocking live broadcasts. The empire fell like a house of cards, one truth at a time. But behind the headlines, in the quiet shadows, the danger hadn't passed. Evelyn was moved to federal protection. Her testimony would serve as the foundation for the prosecution. She was the key witness. The last surviving Harper. The face of truth. But also the target. Marisol and I stayed close. We knew this kind of power didn't go down without blood. The first warning came on day 2. A car tried to run miles off the road. He survived. Barely. Then Marisol's laptop was hacked. Then I got a note taped to my door. "Truth has a price. You've paid nothing yet." We had taken down the king. But his court was still loyal. There were other names in the files. Quiet players. Ghost owners. Political puppets with clean hands and dirty money. And they wanted the Harper name erased. Permanently. I met Evelyn on a rooftop the night before the trial. She stood with the city lights flickering behind her, wearing the same coat from the night she vanished. "They'll try to kill you," I said. "Let them try," she whispered. She handed me a small envelope. "What's this?" "Something I never told anyone. Not even Miles. If anything happens to me, open it. Evelyn. Promise me." I nodded. She didn't look afraid. She looked ready. The trial began the next morning. Federal court. Packed gallery. Evelyn took the stand with unshakable grace. She told the world everything. About her father. The stolen billions. The death of her mother. The cover-ups. The threats. The betrayal. She didn't cry. But I did. Because I knew what it cost her to sit in that seat and tear down the walls of her childhood, brick by brick. William Harper didn't testify. He just stared at her like she was a stranger. And maybe she was. Because the Evelyn I knew had died the moment he put a price on her silence. What remained was something stronger. The prosecution rested. The jury deliberated. And as the verdict approached, I couldn't help but wonder if this was the end, or just the calm before something worse. The courtroom was silent. 12 jurors filed in, each one wearing the weight of a decision that would echo through history. William Harper sat motionless, hands folded, face unreadable. Evelyn didn't blink. Neither did I. The judge asked for the verdict. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty. On the charge of obstruction of justice, guilty. On the charge of first-degree murder, guilty. The room erupted. Gasps. Cries. Applause. Chaos. But I only watched Evelyn. She exhaled once, like she'd been holding that breath since the night her mother died. Afterward, outside the courthouse, cameras waited. She stepped to the podium, hands shaking, but voice calm. The Harper name was built on silence. On fear. On blood. I was born into it, but I refused to die with it. This isn't just about my father. It's about all of them. The ones who hide behind boardrooms and clean suits. Who believe the truth is optional. Today, I buried the Harper Empire. And tomorrow, I begin something new. She walked away before questions could be asked. The crowd parted for her like she was royalty. But she wasn't. Not anymore. She was free. Later that night, I opened the envelope she'd given me. Inside, a letter. Simon, if you're reading this, I'm either gone, or finally safe. This fight nearly killed me. But you gave me a chance to finish it. You gave me back my name. Not Harper. Evelyn. Asterisk. There was no return address. Just a final line. If you ever want to find me, don't look in the city. Look where the noise ends, and the wind still remembers us. I knew what she meant. There was a place, an old cabin by the lake, where we used to talk about running away. Long before everything. Before empires and courtrooms and blood-soaked legacies. So I drove. No phone. No badge. No plan. Just hope. She was there. Standing at the edge of the dock, barefoot, hair in the wind. She turned. Saw me. Smiled. No words. None needed. Because the war was over. And we were still standing,